Hello, everyone. On this episode of Silver Experience, Lessons of a Life Lived, I'm going to talk about one of the more challenging things I've gone through, as well as a heck of an education. I'm going to talk about what it was like to get the call, to know that I was going to become a full-time caregiver for my father. Figured coming up this weekend is Father's Day, so I thought it might be appropriate. Also, it's going to be a year since my dad has passed, so it's a little easier to talk about it. But I do want to share the experience because it definitely life-changing. My dad had two strokes. He had one a year ago, and then a year ago Thanksgiving, and then he actually had his first one 2 years ago Thanksgiving. My father was very considerate. He always had a stroke when I was visiting Thanksgiving. Some would say maybe I gave him a stroke. Not quite true. My mother, she would have probably given him a stroke, but she passed many years before my dad did. I was visiting my dad, and if you've never witnessed someone having a stroke, even especially a mild one, which you really can't tell, unless you see some really crazy weird things going on. Like the first year he had a stroke while I was visiting him. I walked in the house, I ran out, came back home to his place, and I saw pairs of pants all over the floor. I yelled out for my dad, and I walked into the bedroom, and there he was struggling to put on a pair of pants. Never struggled putting on a pair of pants before. A little weird. Okay. So I helped him, picked up all the pants, helped him get his pants on, and then we go ahead in the kitchen, we go to make dinner, and all of a sudden pours a glass of wine and puts the glass in the refrigerator and then goes ahead and puts the bottle in front of him on the dinner table. My dad liked to drink, but not that much. So when I saw these things, I said, Dad, I'm just seeing some things. I want to go get you checked out. So we went to the hospital, had him checked out. It was a minor stroke, did not really impact him in his abilities. So he still lived on his own. He drove, he did his food shopping, went to the doctors, was able to administer his own medication, all the above. Fast forward a year later, I'm visiting again, and I see similar things going on that just, aren't making sense. And I'm like, Dad, are you okay? I'm kind of trying to be low key and not say, oh my God, Dad, what the hell are you doing? But saying, Dad, you okay? Do you realize what you're doing? Do you realize you did this? You realize you did that? So that's when it prompted me to, again, go for the ride to the hospital emergency room and get him scanned. So they scanned him and they came back right away and they said that he did have a stroke, even though he was able to walk and talk, and it was a mild one, thank God. So I had already moved to Florida. He was in the hospital. I had to get back for work. My cardiologist, Dr. Komorowski in Brick, New Jersey, absolutely awesome guy. He became my father's cardiologist after his first stroke. So Dr. Komorowski kept in touch with me every day, let me know what was going on with my dad. Brianna's mom, Kelly, my ex-wife, was lovely. She went and visited my dad every couple of days and reported back. Now, when I took him to the hospital, I walked him in. He got in the car by himself, all good. I'm in Florida. I get a phone call, I believe it was December 10th, and from the hospital letting me know that my dad is doing well and that he's going to be discharged on December 15th. Wonderful. Fantastic. And then the next statement question is, who is going to take care of him? And it's one of those things that you kind of remember forever. It's one of those aha moments, or shock moment, I guess you want to say. I asked, what do you mean? And they said, well, he lost vision in his one eye. He's not really good on his feet. He needs to use a walker. Without a doubt, he cannot walk without a walker. And he can no longer drive. He can no longer administer his own medications and keep track of them. They're concerned about him cooking and forgetting possibly something on the stove. And then they said that he's not able to administer his own medications, to remember who, what, where, when to take. Even if you lay him out in the pillbox, he's not going to be able to be. So hung up on that phone call and was like, wow. Okay, what am I going to do? So I'm an only child. My mother passed away 9 years earlier. So I said, okay. Fortunately, Brianna was out of college, so I didn't have that financial burden at the time. That was over with. I was in a place where I was able to make the decision to go take care of my dad and be his full-time caregiver. And one of the scariest decisions I made, a lot of thinking about it, was wondering what it was going to be like. And while I was wrapping things up here in Florida at Sundance Marine, the store I was running, one of my salesmen, Scott Grosky, Great guy. Great guy. Lots of wisdom. Been in the boat business forever. He came into my office and he said that to me, he was sorry to hear that I had to leave to go take care of my dad. But the words of wisdom that he shared with me was absolutely amazing. And I didn't realize how amazing it was at the time. Scott told me that doing this, you are going to find out, and you are going to find patience like you've never had before, ever had before. And I was always known for wanting to have great patience. I didn't have a short fuse, or I don't have a temper, but I have limited patience. And I thought about what Scott said, and I was like, okay, well, I appreciate those words of wisdom. Those words of wisdom were the truest, most accurate words I probably have been told in my lifetime. So I fly back to New Jersey. I go to my dad's house. I unpack my stuff. The following day, they wanted me to go to the hospital to see him in rehab, to understand what he could do, what he couldn't do before I brought him home. And then the day after was his homecoming. And I went to the hospital and picked him up and, learned how to get him in the car and then bring him home and get him out of the car, get him in the house. And I will tell you that doing that is absolutely terrifying, absolutely terrifying. The first 24 or 48 hours are terrifying. You have to help this person do almost everything. Cook, bathe, clothe, administer meds, check the blood sugar multiple times a day, and take them to doctor's appointments, take them to therapy. And it was beyond intimidating for the first 24, 48 hours. And, after my dad, I put him to bed probably around, 8:30, 9 o'clock or so. I sat on his couch, maybe with a scotch on the rocks. Definitely with a scotch on the rocks. Sat there and just did some self-reflection and just kind of looked at myself and said, wow, am I going to be able to do this? Should I hire a professional person? I would say that if he was bedridden, I absolutely could not have done it. Absolutely not. Mentally and physically, the fact that he was able to get up and be mobile was huge. Absolutely huge. And I wound up being my dad's full-time caregiver. And at the time, so many people said to me, oh my God, that's amazing. You're the most amazing son in the whole wide world. You're so selfless. That's great. Oh my God. And I said, thank you. But I didn't feel that way. It was my parent. It's my dad. If you're a child, an adult child, and your parent needs you, they took care of you the first 18, 20 years of your life. And now it's time for me to take care of him, pay back, pay it forward. And it was a tremendous undertaking, but I do appreciate, and I did appreciate all those people that said that you're doing something tremendous. And what really was a verification of that was I talked to Dr. Komorowski, my cardiologist, and he said, David, you have no idea how many patients I have or have had that are in the hospital that have adult children, and the adult children never come, they never call, they never show up. The call they're waiting for is that their loved one is not there anymore. They're no longer with us physically on this earth. And what are they getting out of it? Pretty sad. Pretty sad. So that was a real wake-up call. That was a wow. That was definitely a wow. Just to think like that is horrible. Absolutely horrible. But taking care of my dad, I spent Christmas, we celebrate Christmas, and then January, I took care of him, February, and then came February 20th. Before I went back up to take care of him, I did find an assisted living down here in Florida, great place on the water, on the intercoastal, high rise. First time in his life he got to live on the water, which he always wanted to do, but unfortunately my mother wouldn't let him. That'll be a whole another topic and subject for a podcast. But got him down, flew him down. I had my buddy Jim drive my truck down with all his stuff. Jim was awesome. He unloaded everything at my father's place in Pompano, the assisted living facility. We got off the plane, walked right out of the airport, and there was Jim in my truck ready to take us. It was a great experience watching my dad come down here, being able to move at the age of 84 at the time. Unfortunately, with him losing his independence, and anybody who has been through this, or you possibly will be going through this, when someone loses their independence, think about yourself. Think about, you get up out of bed, you go to the bathroom, you jump in the shower, you go in the car, you go to work, you go shopping, you do this, you do that, you take a vacation, all on your own. Can't do it anymore. So those patients, those deep, deep rooted patients that Scott Grosky had told me about, I had found very quickly. And I don't know if you would say it was a combination of empathy for what he was going through, the challenge of physically watching someone struggle like that daily, day in, day out, every minute, every hour of the day. That was hard to watch. But when I got my dad down here in Florida, I really thought this would brighten his spirits, and unfortunately it didn't. But I am glad that I did get him down here. I am glad that I was able to take him to breakfast over on the beach a few times and look at him and say, Dad, we live down here in Florida. It's beautiful. It's paradise. And we can go to breakfast and do this all the time if you like. Took him out to a couple of nice dinners. The best dinner that I took him to was Joe's Stone Crab in Miami and South Beach. I have a picture I posted online before. That was the biggest smile, the biggest smile I saw my dad in a picture. And I can't remember how long, many years. That was pretty special, really, really special. I'm going to keep it together, promise you. As hard it is not having my dad anymore, that's a whole process. And I'll get into that in another podcast, what it's like to go through losing both of your parents. Those of you that are watching this know what I mean. I mean, we all process it differently, but it's an experience. You learn about the end of life. You learn about yourself. It's a lot. And like I said, I will get into that in a different podcast. But that is my experience being a full-time caregiver for the time that I did. And it was the greatest gift to be able to spend the last 7 months of my dad's life with him, day in, day out, with the exception of me going back to New Jersey after I moved him here to clear out the house, get the house sold, and then come back down here. But to have him close by like I did in New Jersey, he lived 15 minutes away from me in Toms River, where I lived. He lived 15 minutes away from me in Pompano Beach. And if you have the opportunity, if you're able to financially handle it and just stop your life on a dime and go and take care of your mom or your dad who need you. It's extremely rewarding, scary as hell, as I told you at first. But once you realize what their limitations are and what they can do on their own, it gets easier. It definitely does. But you definitely need to find time to escape. I was able to get away. I put some cameras in the house, and I had some nurses come take care of him while I was away for like a long weekend, just to clear my head. And you need it. And you absolutely positively need it. You need to do that. You need to take a break. And also, this whole experience gave me a whole different perspective on nurses. I mean, listen, we all know the nursing profession is an amazing profession. They're angels. We see it in the hospital, but to be a nurse that's a full-time caregiver, that is amazing that someone is able to do that. I did it for a short period of time, and it is hard. It is hard. But also, I can tell you that when my dad passed, I had no regrets. When I got to come, when I came home after him passing, I was there when he passed. Actually, not true. I missed it by 10 minutes. I was there the entire day. We knew that the end was coming. And I whispered in his ear that I was going to go grab a bite to eat and that I would be back. But I told him it's okay. It's okay to go. I got this. I got Brianna. We're all good. And the fact I got to spend the last 7 months with him, no regrets. Anything that had to be said was said. Anything that had to be discussed was discussed. There were laughs. There were smiles. There were struggles. But in closing, I will tell you that if you are able to and you have the opportunity to take care of a loved one, and like I said, if my father was bedridden, I definitely couldn't have done it. But being that he was able to be mobile, I was able to do it. And if anybody wants to reach out and ask me some more questions about this topic, I'd be more than happy to talk about it. I'm happy that my dad is where he is, because after him having those limitations, like I said, he wasn't happy being here on earth. But like I said, I was with him for the last 7 months, and that was a gift. Thanks for listening.